Today I want to talk to you guys about submitting for a belt on the Lockpickers United, specifically green belt. Green belt is the first time that you're really going to have to video a continuous video of picking and gutting, and then obviously you've got to do a reassemble as well, and that can be on a separate video. But I'm going to give you guys some tips on how to basically submit for belts on the Lockpickers United so you don't have to get a rejection and do it all over again. Don't forget to like. First things first, when you are submitting for a belt, you need to decide what lock you're going to pick. If you specifically are going for green belt, I highly suggest you buy 2 of the same lock, okay? Because here's the thing. You need to be able to gut and reassemble this lock, but you need to practice that. If you practice on the lock that you are picking, you can lose parts and have a disaster and then need to order a whole nother lock and practice picking it all over again. So your safest bet is to practice gutting and reassembling a secondary lock. So just buy 2 of whatever lock it is you're going out for, if you can afford it. And then just practice gutting on the one and picking the other. Then when it's time to do your video, you'll be ready to gut and reassemble with no problems. Hopefully. Future Lady Locks here. I've got a message that I forgot to put in the video from when I made the video. Couple things. If you've never recorded a video before of yourself picking, definitely practice this ahead of time. Now, you don't have to use it for anything, but I suggest you do it and watch it. Listen to yourself if you're talking. Get used to hearing yourself and seeing yourself on camera because, yeah, I was thinking, and it really sucks sometimes to watch yourself on camera. And a lot of us really hate all of our own videos. We don't even like our own voices. So it's probably better that you get used to hearing yourself and seeing yourself on camera. Even if it's just your hands, it's still very strange. So if you've not done it before, give it a couple of practices and before you make your official video for your belts. Also, please note that you don't really have to talk through the video of yourself picking for your belt. If it's an official belt video, you really just have to show what they want to see. You don't have to talk through the picking and all that. It is very, very difficult to talk and pick and to talk through a gutting process. If you've not done that before and you want to do that on your video, kind of talk through it and let people know what's going on, what you're doing, again, I suggest you practice that quite a few times and, watch it back. Make sure you're watching it back and getting used to seeing yourself on camera, hearing yourself on camera. When I first started videoing, I used to say 50,000 times in my video. I've had to program myself not to say So you might want to watch your videos, make sure that you are kind of talking right, saying the right things, you're showing the right things. Also, guys, you've got to get the camera angle correct. You've got to get your picking angle correct. Now, if you're videoing, you're coming from a different angle, and you've got to kind of adjust your vise and adjust your picking angle for the camera to catch all that. It can be very, very hard to kind of get accustomed to picking at a different angle. So if you've got to do that, you probably should know that ahead of time. So get your camera and stuff set up, get your picking angle set up, and practice. Don't forget to stay to the end of the video. There's some important information I'm giving you here that you're not going to want to miss, so stick around to the end. Future Lady Locks out. Next, when you are making your video, you're going to need to make sure that you're kind of zoomed out a little bit because you don't want to pull anything off camera. If you go out of frame at all, it's an instant reject. So you can't do that. So you've got to make sure your area that you're working in is pretty big. The best way to do this is zoom out a bit and then place some books or something all along the border so you know exactly where, your border is when you're working. Then you want to make sure you're actually focused in on your lock. With these autofocus cameras, it does tend to grab onto your hands and then it's focusing on your hands the whole time. So then when you go to gut your lock, it's focused on your hands and not the pins, and then they can't see the pins and you get a reject. So the best way to avoid all that is to just keep checking that focus. After you're done picking, double check the focus, make sure it's on the lock, and then go ahead and do your gutting. Then again, focus on the lock and do your reassembly. Now, I personally think that if you're going to gut a lock on video, you might as well reassemble the same lock since it's already taken apart and you probably got to put it back together anyway. So you might as well just reassemble that one. So make sure that you get enough practice on the lock that you bought, that you can reassemble it easily. You can do it on one video. It doesn't matter if it's a 40-minute video. You're going to want to give the mods timestamps anyway, so it doesn't matter how long your video is, as long as you keep track of the time. Let them know when you are starting picking, when you're done picking, when you start gutting, when you start reassembly. That should be enough timestamps for them to easily scroll through and find what they need. Next, I'm going to give you a bonus tip about reassembling padlocks. Now, when you go to reassemble your padlock, the very last step is to put that screw in and close the shackle. What you want to do is, before you put that screw in, you're going to want to test your lock and make sure that the key works before you screw that screw down and close the shackle. So how you test it, you just finish putting everything inside the lock and then close the shackle without the screw. Use the key and test it. Make sure that it's working properly. If it is, you can then put the screw in and finish, assembling your lock. Now, if it doesn't work, you can easily pull everything out of the lock because you haven't screwed it down and locked it in there. So that's a good tip. Please don't forget that. It's happened to me and it sucks. Subscribe.